Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 55 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League Show podcast. I am your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, and joining me today, currently, is Barry Stokes on his Todd. Scott Williams will be joining us shortly. I am sure. Barry, how are you doing today?
Good. I thought I got the manager's curse, manager at month curse, but we'll touch upon that in a bit.
Oh, we're already getting there. I'm going to cover that in a minute, mate.
I know, mate. I know. I just want to put it in there. I've got one. I've got one.
Brilliant result anyway for last month, but we will cover that this week. We will cover all things double game week 27. We'll cover off the wildcards previously, look at some chip strategy moving forward, and we'll have a look at some key assets that we'll all be considering moving forward. So thank you ever so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, our YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to where you get your podcast from, and then also to follow us on social media, UnFootballPod, UnFootballP on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Not that I've TikToked for ages. I've tweeted and Instagrammed. I haven't really TikToked for ages. That's poor from me. I need to get on with that. So let's do Manager of the Week. First of all, Manager of the Week for game week 26 was Life of Brian. Richard Kirk, well done to Richard. 71 points in the game week. He had Ward come off his bench for Sanchez, which kicked a few people plumb where it hurts. But yeah, Ward with 11 points, a penalty save. So well done to Ward. Zinchenko -1 for sure, and he's got Lewis Dunk at the back. Matoma, who a lot of people bench this week. One of them being Scott, and we'll get to in a bit. Saka captain, classic, blanked, but a lot of people went Saka captain for all the obvious reasons you'd expect. They did score 3 times and he got no returns. Odegaard the same. These 3 players this week, they were all the returns last time. Well, Martinelli was the return, actually, wasn't he? Not Odegaard. But Saka, Odegaard and Zinchenko, no returns from 3 goals. Salah, 21 points. If you kept him, you cashed in. Same with Darwin Núñez, but this team didn't have him. Rashford with 2 points, Haaland and Tony. And then he had Sanchez, Robertson with 9 points on his bench, Trippier and Nonto. So well done to Richard for 71 points this week. Shout out to Tom Hughes, 69 points this week, because he forgot to change his captain from Salah. So well done, Tommy. To touch base on Manager of the Month then, Baz, for February. We'll go in reverse order for podcast listeners. We had Jack Tomlinson in 10th, Jack Alcroft in 9th, Cully Mathew in 8th, Dimple Hunjan in 7th, Jeff Belcher in 6th, Steve Cousins in 5th. Who the hell's this guy? Alex Rex in 4th? What a February. That's the best month of the season I've had, I think, so far. Martin Wheel in 3rd, Sandeep Hunjan in 2nd, and top of the tree by 5 points, Barry Stokes. Barry, talk us through what went right for you this month.
I had too many fires to put out, and I kept Martinelli. Is probably going to be the other one. I probably got on Zinchenko a bit earlier, and he scored. So Reece James gamble didn't really come out as good as I wanted it to be. And obviously, if I held it on to Darwin Núñez, he would have obviously scored, but I got Tony in. But I think it was down to the Martinelli. I think that was the key, and I think it also helped that Martin had ridiculous amount of points on the bench. Because if he didn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But yeah, I think that was the main reason. Martinelli, really. I think he got me out of the not so good points, shall we say?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of those things, isn't it? You got a different fire to put out. He stays in the team. He only got dropped once. When he got dropped, everyone kind of predicted it, but then he scored. So then you weren't going to drop him after that, and then he delivered in the next game week with the other goal. You're not going to drop him after that, and then he absolutely smashes double game week 25. So again, it's that initial getting dropped that everyone predicted. Everyone went away from him who didn't have that, you had other fires to put out, like you say. I didn't. I went away from him. I actually brought in Saka, who still delivered, but for Martinelli. But yeah, you go. Works out that way sometimes. 100 points. He hit a ton game week 25. So that was a nice game week. I wildcarded this week, which I think a few people saw. I did put it on social platforms to discuss. And I wanted to tell you why I wildcarded this week and talk you through a little bit of my strategy moving forward. Because I think a lot of the wildcards that we'll see this game week will be the same as what the ones were last game week, really. And I did it a week early because I didn't like my team. And it didn't really fit very well for me. A lot of people were if you were in the what am I talking about, the Twitter community, everybody thought everyone was wildcarding. It was a massive deal. Wildcards everywhere. It's going to be, and they're all going to be the same teams. And everyone was moaning that everyone was going to have the same players, and it was all really quite pathetic. And then 3.4% of managers wildcarded. So 96.6% of people didn't. So that just goes to show how small the FPL community really is still compared to the amount of people that play the game. So don't be one of those people who thinks it's boring because everyone's got the same team and blah, blah, blah. They haven't. So don't worry about it. My wildcard team, I went for Raya in goal and then Ward as his backup. Zinchenko, Estupinian and Trippier, along with Matty Cash and Botman. That was my mistake this week. I put Trippier in over Cash, which once again, I made a mistake this season, Baz, and it really massively kicked me in the backside. It wasn't like a clean sheet compared to a 1 point. It was an assist and 3 bonus points. But anyway, that's just the way that it's rolled for me this season. Saka, Martinelli, Matoma, Rashford and March, Kane, Haaland and Tony. So the obvious front three. I don't really need to tell you why I've picked that front three, to be fair. But moving forward for me, I've wildcarded last week, so I could have 5 double game week players for game week 27. I can pretty much put out an optimal 11 for game week 28. So I'm going to roll my transfer this week, so I'll have 2 free transfers for game week 28. The likely move for me will be to take out Haaland and March and to bring in Ollie Watkins and an optimal midfielder, whether that be like a Maddison if he looks good or not, something along those lines. So then I'll be playing a 4-4-2 formation, the 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 3-4-3, whatever it might be, whatever it feels right for at the time. But I'll be putting those players out. So my front line will be Kane, Watkins and Tony, which is pretty optimal. And then going into game week 29, it'll be a case of looking at Martinelli's and Zinchenko's form and deciding what I'm going to do with those guys, because it's quite likely that I'll end up probably taking a -4 to take those guys out if I think it's right. If not, I'll just take one transfer to take one of them out and no hits, whichever one I think is the right one to do, because I think I only want 2 Arsenal going forward looking at the fixtures, especially if I'm free hitting in game week 32, because that's their best fixture. It's Southampton at home, so I'll be free hitting for their really good fixture, and the rest of the fixtures are a bit iffy, so I don't see loads of goals from them. So it might be a Martinelli, depends on injuries again, if he's nailed on I'll keep him. Anyway, whatever. It's all about making sure then I've got probably 12 double game week players, if not 13 double game week players for a bench boost in game week 29. And then we're all guessing Ivan Toney will have some news on whether he's going to be banned or not sooner rather than later by that point. I'll have enough money in the bank then to move from Toney back to Haaland, because I don't want to be off Haaland for too long, obviously pending injuries, etc. For game week 30. Free hitting game week 32. But also I think there will be a transfer again back in for maybe a Solly March or a McAllister for game week 31, because I do think that's the week that we'll see the Newcastle-Brighton fixture fall in, and then I'll have 5 double game week players for that week. So that is how I've thought this through. And then you can't really think much further ahead than that, because to be quite honest, things can change so much that all of what I've just said probably won't happen. But
that's the story of your season, though, isn't it?
It really is, mate. But that is the plan moving forward. That is what I intend to do. Because I had a couple of questions this week into why I wildcarded.
Have you had Haaland from the start then, Alex?
From game week 2.
Right.
So game week 1, I did the straight switch from Kane to Haaland, and then I brought Kane back in because obviously I wanted him in the team.
Did you get the price increases? So obviously, at me, if I got rid of Haaland now, it'd be 11.8 million.
Yes.
He's worth 12.2.
Yes.
So you got that. So getting rid of Haaland is the only issue, because of you getting rid of him. You've got to buy him back for more.
Yes. So I'll be buying him back for 0.4 more. So it'll cost me 0.4 of my team value.
Well, it'll probably be worth it in the end. It's Haaland.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And actually, I think a lot of people will sell him. I think he'll probably go down to 12.1. That's my guess. So I think it'll actually cost me 0.3 in team value. And I think we've got, unless, Salah is back, and we have to then talk about trying to get more premiums in the team, and Trent becomes an option again, or Robertson does if, following on from the mauling of United, then if they become an option again, then we might be a little bit tighter for cash. But at the moment, team value doesn't really matter that much. I mean, we've all got quite a bit of money really to spend if we want to. So yeah, probably going to cost me 0.3. I'd have thought.
We're all like Chelsea, aren't we? We've got money to spend.
We've all got 27 players for a 23-man squad or whatever Chelsea have. Here he is. Scott's here.
Hiya, boys.
There he is.
Turns up when he wants.
Oh, it's snowing outside, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so cold. We were just talking through wildcards, and I just went through my wildcard team and why I did the transfers I did. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things, Scott, that were different to my wildcard, your wildcard different to my wildcard.
Yeah.
So the first one was you went for the double Brentford defence. So you've gone for 2 Brighton assets and 3 Brentford assets for this week, rather than 3 Brighton and 2 Brentford. Was that with game week 28 in mind and the blank, I assume?
It actually, do you know what? It actually was. Yeah. I wanted to. I was very conscious about having at least 11 players for that game week.
Yeah. And I was just talking through the fact that my transfer plans moving forward will be bank this week, 2 transfers next week. One of them will be taking Haaland out, and one of them probably March for a Watkins and a midfielder, probably maybe a Maddison, someone like you've got. Then going without Haaland in game week 29 at home to Liverpool, and then bringing him back in game week 30. But trying to get optimal players in. But that's just what my plan is at the moment. Best laid plans and all that. Same team for Scott with podcast listeners again, with Raya and Ward, Stupinian, Zinchenko, Trippier. You went for Emerson Royale, which I think was a really nice differential move.
Yeah, again, playing in that game week coming up was one of the big factors. They're not looking too bad at the back. They've been fairly solid all year, I think, Spurs. And it is just, and Baz made a good point. It is that rotation risk with him and Perisic and Pedro, Saucy Pedro. So yeah, it was a bit of a gamble, and he didn't start, so it was a bad gamble really. But obviously, I benched him anyway. There was a bit of a debate in our chat whether to go with a double Brentford or Spurs. I just had a feeling Wolves would score at home. Felt like that was a kind of a must win for them at home. Against a bit of an inconsistent Spurs team that might have had one eye on as we're recording tonight's game against AC Milan. And Brentford have been not been too bad at the back, especially at home as well. So I kind of fancied that, but yeah, it didn't all go to plan. But hey,
his fixtures are good as well. Like we've just got on the screen here: Forest at home, Southampton away, Everton away, Brighton at home is obviously not an easy fixture, but then Bournemouth at home. So 4 out of the next 5 are really, really good fixtures as well. So I like the attacking of the double Spurs, because actually then their fixtures kind of go to part of 32, 33, 34. You won't want Emerson Royale for Newcastle away, United at home, and Liverpool away.
Yeah, but then I think what's a bit annoying about Emerson Royale is usually we all want to have that player that's 90 or 0. But he's like a 90 or 9, 10, 11, 12, a bit like Perisic. You seem to always come on. Yeah,
you've got a complete, exactly like I said, there's a few 15s, 90s, 9s, 77s, 10s, 56, 67, 62s. Those are all certain minutes that he's had. So yeah, I know what you mean in that. And I liked as well, you went for the one different midfielder. So we went for Saka, Martinelli, Rashford and Mitoma. And then you went for Maddison over going for the double up in midfield for Brighton. So a lot of people went for the double, either March or McAllister with Mitoma. So what was your Maddison thought process?
Yeah, mainly because I knew I was going against the grain a bit there. I needed to try and do something a bit different. Without going too wild to try and catch up. Everything that good about Leicester this season comes through James Maddison. Yeah, Kelechi's done okay in recent times. Don't get me wrong; he should have scored about 5 at the game at the weekend. But everything good usually comes through James Maddison. And even though they lost that game against Southampton, he still looked good. He still played well. And yeah, with the fixtures, Chelsea at home is, in seasons gone by, a tricky game. Maybe not so much anymore, but they're coming off a good result. Last night. So yeah, that's one. Obviously, Brentford away is tricky. But then they've got Crystal Palace, Villa, and Bournemouth, which is a nice run. And we just know he's one of them players that catches fire.
Well, the double in 29 as well. The double game week 29 is I mean, Palace and Villa in that double is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, he's certainly a captain option for me that week, and one of the big reasons I've brought him in this week is because brought him in last week is because he's that differential, but he's going to double in that game week as well as not miss a game week because Leicester are out of the Every Cup going, aren't they? Almost. No, Europa League, aren't they? Conference League.
Conference League. Yeah, they've there's been a great run of fixtures as well. They've only got City away in there in game week 31. That's tough up until Fulham away in 35 is debatable if it's tough or not, isn't it? But they've got a really, really good run of fixtures now. Chelsea at home, fine, okay. Brentford away, okay. It's one of those fixtures sometimes, but the rest moving forward, I think, are great. And then the relatively obvious front three. I think pretty much anyone that wildcarded would go for this front three. I can't see why you wouldn't do. Obviously, Ollie Watkins is probably the other player you might have considered, maybe Inacho, but the double game.
Kelechi maybe as well.
But you just can't turn away. I mean, I know Kane and Haaland didn't deliver this week, but their fixtures, and then it's still Haaland. I mean, they've got fixture this week is Crystal Palace. So I mean, they're not a good team, but really at the moment. But then you've got no fixture in 28, Liverpool at home 29, but then they have Southampton and Leicester in 30 and 31. I don't want to not have Haaland for those two games.
Yeah,
especially Leicester at home because you know what Leicester's defense is like. So be going away from him to get him back pretty quickly if I was going to. Your plan moving forward, Scott, if you have one.
Lol. My plan moving forward is, I wildcarded and obviously I did really well this week. So
you're a Matoma away from it's just the way it is.
It's just Sanchez owners with Ward on the bench. It's just one of those seasons. Never catch that break. And I was debating Matoma playing. Anyway, that was, by the way, that wasn't the question. I think probably similar to you. I'm not going to lie. I maybe mentioned it a bit tongue-in-cheek, and it's probably not the right idea. But I look at my team and think, I love all them fixtures pretty much that every one of my players are playing. It's like, I might just do something wild and bench boost this week.
Well, bench boost is 100% an option this week. I want to make sure that's. I'm going to get Ben Crellin's planner up because it's just easy to see. But I want to make sure that's really clear. Bench boost this week is more than fine as an option if you really like it. I think a lot of people have got benching dilemmas and benching headaches this week, and actually, why do you need a headache? If you think these are the ones, what you have to do is to run the exercise is as simple as this. You look at what your bench is going to look like in 29, what your bench will look like in 27. And you go, right, okay, well, which bench do I think is going to score me more points? And don't get drawn into we talked about this in the podcast, not last week, but the week before, I think it was. Don't get drawn into thinking, oh, but my bench would be all my single game week players in game week 29. Well, it probably wouldn't. You probably would bench a couple of the doublers for a Saka at home to Leeds and Kane away at Everton. That's. I'm going to move. My team's geared up for the bench boost 29, and my transfer plan is towards that. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the bench boost this week. So everyone's got a great fixture. Arsenal play Fulham, fine, whatever. But Liverpool play Bournemouth, if anyone does have that. Chelsea play Leicester, which is pretty much of an anyone's game. But Man United have Southampton at home. City have Crystal Palace. Spurs and play Forest. It's a good week. You're gonna have loads of good fixtures.
The only fixture I don't like particularly too much, and he could easily keep a clean sheet because they're not particularly scoring on all cylinders. Is Ward against Chelsea? But they're at home, and like I say, it's certainly potential. And my only other worry on my particular team is Emerson Royale. I think he's the only rotation risk I have in my team.
Yeah. So I mean, I suppose then if you were looking towards a bench boost 29, you've got 3 weeks to potentially take him out for a double game week player if you wanted to do so, or someone who was more nailed on. For example, a Matty Cash has got Bournemouth in 28, which is a great fixture, and then Chelsea and Leicester in 29. They're both pretty leaky, followed by Forest at home, Newcastle, Brentford, Fulham. So it's not that's why I went for Cash, exactly that reason. Not that I played him and got any points, but still. There it is, isn't it? That was my bench. We both benched someone that got double figures this week for somebody who got one. So it's it's not ended up working out too well. But I wanted to touch then on building the wildcard this week. So a lot of people again will be thinking about this because we need to be committing to our chip strategies at this point, really. We need to be committing to when we're going to be doing the wildcard, the free hit, and whether you're going to be looking to wildcard really now or wildcard later. Free hit in 28 or free hit in 32 or later or whatever you want to do at that point. But you need to have that thought process in mind, really, because all of your transfers are going to be geared towards what you are going to be doing. I'm not talking about letting it dictate you to the point where you make silly moves, but it's going to help you define those 50-50 choices moving forward. So, Baz, I asked you to put together a wildcard team, and I'm assuming that's it. Yes, it is that. That is it. Because that's not your free hit team. So as Rashford didn't. Rashford playing 28. So your wildcard team, Ward and Raya.
Yep.
Relatively standard. Zinchenko, Trippier, and Cash, again, relatively standard. We'll get to the Chilwell and the Shaw in a second. Midfielders, Saka, Rashford, Martinelli, McAllister, and Kulusevski, which is the differential again. And then Watkins, Tony, and Kane, which again, we've just discussed that front three being a very positive move, going no Haaland. Obviously, we'll ask the questions on that right now, Baz. So defensively, we've gone for Chilwell as a bit of a gamble move, or do you think he's going to be someone that's going to be really delivering moving forward? Why Chillers?
He's looked better than James, and I wanted a Chelsea defender that was cemented in the team, and I think Chilwell at left back gets the head over Cucurella, and James, he gets drawn into this central midfield, and Reece James doesn't play like a Cancelo kind of player. He bombs down the wing, gets your width, gets some crosses, cuts inside and has shots, and he's just getting drawn into the centre midfield, and I'm like, well, Chilwell can do that. And he can bomb down wing, and obviously he's looking back to where he was, and we all know what Chilwell's about. He can produce, and I think he's there ready to produce. To be honest, so that's why I've gone for him over James, because I think Chelsea's fixtures going forward. What the problem is with rotation wise, and I think the wing backs are kind of cemented. I think everything else it could be anyone.
Yeah.
So that's why I went for Chilwell on that one.
And Shaw, trusting United's defence after what happened this week.
I think it was just a one-off. I think they had a couple of big games all leading up, and I think the Liverpool one was a far too much. Liverpool away, and obviously how Liverpool's been playing recently. Yeah, they haven't been to the best, but they're picking up points, and then the front three was just literally just on fire. You just couldn't do anything against them front three. So yeah, I've still got faith in it. And obviously, Shaw gets your attacking returns because, like we keep saying, I like fullbacks, wing backs. It's very rare that I will put a centre half in there unless it's for example, like a couple of years back when Shane Duffy kept scoring.
Yeah. John Terry back in the day.
Exactly. So that's, I think they'll get you the most return, especially with obviously how football's changed over the years, where the wing backs are wingers. They're not fullbacks. They're just near enough. If you look at an average formation, it's 2-3-5. Basically, the wing backs are like near enough act as forwards. But yeah,
with that then, in terms of the midfielders, so we'll do Kulu first. We've just touched on Spurs and why they're a good asset and the fixtures. Is that the reason? Is that the reason for going for Kulu?
Yeah, I was torn between Kulu and like a Newcastle player, but Newcastle haven't been firing. I know Tottenham hasn't really been firing, but Kulu had that chance where Saad made a great save, and I thought, yeah, it looks like he's going to be back on it now. I was actually tempted, but I didn't have enough money for Son. I know it. I know it's a proper gamble, but I think he's going to come and explode in these couple of fixtures.
Fair play to him. It's too much money for a gamble for me, but yeah,
it is. That was that was the only reason I thought Kulu's a good price to gamble on, and he can change it around because the midfield.
What's your thinking behind Son? Because he's not done anything for since the World Cup.
I just think he's too good to be.
Is it blind optimism?
Yeah, blind optimism. Yeah. I think sometimes you just got to have the gut feeling. Sometimes you just got to get them out and go with it. It's just sometimes it is.
I love it because I completely disagree. Couldn't disagree more on that. It's like when you say a team's too good to go down. I think but I love it, Baz. Why not? We're meant to be having fun, aren't we?
It's a differential that can, Kulu's got a high ceiling as well, and they've got great fixtures. So, Son's probably a step too far in terms of the price gamble, but Kulusevski, I think, why not? That's that midfielder slot that's, going to be that real differential because everyone's going to have probably 2 Arsenal and Rashford and then going to have a Brighton. So that's you kind of almost like your one slot where you can be really different. So it does make sense. The Brighton midfielder. So McAllister is your player of choice. Obviously, I've run the stats on the Brighton players since the World Cup with this, and he is by far out of the March, Matoma and McAllister in terms of points. He's been the worst performing. In terms of XGI, though, he is the 3rd out of them, but he's close to Matoma in terms of expected goal involvement. So he's not far out. He's actually ahead of March in terms of XG. And he is, again, I think he's third out of the midfielders again. So statistically, he's the worst out of the 3 of them, but he is on set play. But what's the thought with this guy? Why McAllister over March or Matoma?
I'm just thinking Matoma, March have been on fire that much that it's going to get ignited. They're going to put it out. They're going to extinguish it. Whereas McAllister's there or thereabouts, he's bubbling over. He's ready to bomb. And I think it's there, especially in where he's playing now. He's playing obviously behind striker, and I think he's on set pieces, he's on penalties, and I think he can link up well as well. And I just think it's a differential as well. He's only 4.3% owned, whereas Matoma now is 13 point something. March is, I don't know if it's on there. I
don't know what his ownership is, but it's
March. It's very rare that we ever get a chance to speak about March because he's usually defensive. But obviously, with De Zerbi coming in, he's made him more attacking, and he looks a good player. But I
don't agree. I don't disagree with you at all. To be honest, in terms of XGI. He's 0.8 per 90, and that's actually minutes he's played. And March is 0.9 and Matoma's 0.6. In terms of expected goal involvements, he's right up there with them. In terms of points, he's quite a way behind. But when you look at actually expected points, he's top of expected points out of the 3 of them per 90 at 6.5 compared to 6.4.
And that proves my point. He's ready to explode. Obviously, it could backfire. It could be like my son shout a minute ago. But that's where I think I need to do something different to challenge the top 3 in the league. And I think if I have the odd differential that I want to get on early, because that's what it's all about. It's like Cully. He got Mahrez early and Fernandes, and that made him shoot at top. So if you can get onto them players early before they start booming onto him, and then everyone joins the bandwagon. I think that's why I went for McAllister.
In terms of expected stats, so the only thing to bear in mind is that this quote totally contradicts itself. I'm about to say, by the way, but if you take out last week, he's sort of nowhere near them, the other 2, but because he's on set pieces and he has a penalty and a corner and he can do all of these things, then that really rockets him up. So it shows that he's probably not as consistent in terms of the returns he's going to get as March and Matoma, but he's proved this week that he's got the ability to be quite explosive because of his set pieces. So that's where kind of the gamble is. That's if Brighton get a few more penalties, which they've never really been known to do, but they did this week, then he's going to be.
I think how they're playing now with Matoma and March being very attacking and cutting in inside, and I think if people make stupid mistakes like Jared Bowen does, then you're going to get them fouls and things like that. And I think Ferguson's obviously a big target man. Welbeck comes on, he's more of like a false nine, joins in with the midfield more than what Ferguson does. And I think that's where I think they'll get potentially more free kicks and penalties around that area.
A couple of other things. Obviously, there's no Haaland, which we've discussed. Anything to expand on from that? Would it be to get him back in game week 30?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's one of them where if Kane's not firing, I'll just take Kane out. It's as easy as that. But with how Watkins is performing, and he didn't score, but he hit the post at the weekend. I think they're Tony and Watkins are form. Kane is Kane. He can score, but it's Haaland. That was the only downside. It's like he could do it against Liverpool.
Yeah, he could. And they are at home, aren't they? At the end of the day,
and there's the gamble. And I think with that, I'll have 3.5 million left over.
Yeah.
So I've got enough surplus cash to go back in for Haaland, but I think everyone's got Haaland. I wanted something different, but it's come back and it bites me quite a lot. Where I do like my wild card that I did, I put like Sterling in earlier in the season and people like that to be differential, and it cost me 2 months to sort it all out.
Yeah, it's the difference, and that's why you've got to have a plan to get him back, haven't you? Really, that's the
exactly. And I think it's one of them. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then I'll probably go back down the pecking order.
With the team as well, the structure of it. So full optimal 11 for game week 28. It's pretty much your free hit. You can get out of that by like one player, for game week 28. The free hit team you've put together, we'll have a look at in a minute. Like, it's pretty much there or thereabouts. So you can do a full optimal team in game week 28. There are 4 single game week players in here for game week 29, but they are easily moved about if you need. Martinelli, Saka, Zinchenko, and there's 5 single game players. The 3 Arsenal and the 2 Spurs. So they're easily moved about. So I get that's flexible because you'd have a couple of weeks to sort that if you wanted to put some more double game week players in with a hit. Yeah,
like with that, I probably got rid of Kulusevski and get Maddison in.
Yeah. So with the question I had for you that was about this that really struck me was there's only 3 double game week players for this week, and obviously Brighton have got Leeds and Palace, which is a really good double game week, and then Tony and obviously Brentford themselves. We've got Everton and Southampton. Now you've got Raya and Tony, which is expected. So do we need a third Brentford player? Is a question that we'll get to in a second. But only 1 Brighton with that double game week with the form that they're in. Do you think you're a bit light on that or are you happy with 1 Brighton? Do you not really rate the double game week that much?
I wanted more Brighton, but I was thinking more ahead if I did do this wild card, because then I'll have to potentially, if I could put 2 more Brighton in, for example, and put Estupiñán and Mitoma, then I'm like, well, I might have to free hit the following week, or I might have to do some drastic transfers that I don't want to, and I can see this going forward for a couple of weeks where I can go, right, I'll bank a couple of bank transfer, then I'll do 2 transfers and get potentially 2 double game week players in, and then bench boost, and then do my free hit later on.
Yeah. I think I really like the team. I think you've got the differential in Kulusevski, which is a good gamble. It's a gamble pick. It's a good gamble. I don't mind McAllister over the other guys at all. I think the only player in there that worries me is Chilwell. I think Chilwell for me, just because of injuries and rotation. And then the other thing I would just say is it's either Chilwell. I think I like him in there for 28 though. I like him in there for 28, and it's just maybe would I probably take Shaw out for Estupiñán? Yeah, so I've got 4 double game weekers, and I've still got an optimal team for 28, and I've still got a double game week player for 29, and he'll probably double in 31, and he'll double in 30. I probably would make that one change to it, but I think it's great. I like it. A bit different.
Shaw at home against Southampton.
Oh, a great fixture. What a great
exactly.
fixture.
So
yeah,
it's one of them against his former club as well. So
yeah, not wrong with that, I don't think.
Yeah, so that's right.
No, I like it. I think it's good. So, Scott, do we need 3 Brentford players or Ryan?
Yeah, I think this is a massive error from Baz. I hate it. If I'm honest, I think your
Liv disagreeing
position.
with me today.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think in
Yeah.
your position in the league, I think it's too much gambling going on. You sort of, I get what you're saying about setting yourself up for future game weeks, but this is like one of the big game weeks that's left with a few good doubles. So I just think, I think you're just a bit light on Brentford and Brighton, who, the two of the, if it was Brentford and Brighton and they're both like, 14th, 15th in the league, I completely agree with this team. But because they're doing so well, I just think you're just losing too much value there, personally. But you're giving us all, me and Alex, a chance to catch you up, Baz. So I honestly massively appreciate it.
But Scott, would you your take on this? So yeah, 3 Brentford for you and 3 Brighton is right. I think 3 Brighton, and I'm happy with Raya and Tony, to be honest. I mean, I get the 3 Brentford as well. Like I don't. The double Brentford defense still makes me feel a bit, especially with 2 away games. I'm a bit like, okay, yeah, but I don't think it's wrong. I've just not gone for it because I've gone somewhere else for future game week plan. That's where I've kind of compromised on it. But yeah, do you think that we need? I've kind of lost my train of thought then. But do you what do you think about that was what I was going to ask. McAllister. I was going to ask you about McAllister. That's what I was going to say about the midfielders.
Yeah. So I think with Brighton, you've got a few options there, haven't you? You got McAllister, March, and Matoma. MMM. It's like a deluxe wrapper.
Get branded.
I was about the peanuts, to be honest.
All right, I was on
Chocolate
about
peanuts.
Anyway, yeah, but you kind of spoilt for choice there a little bit. I would have 2 of those 3 in my team for this double game week coming up. I think I do agree with what Bas said earlier about McAllister. I've had him in fantasy football draft for a long time. He's had a bit of a quiet period, I must say. He's looked good after the World Cup, but he's not really brought the points in. But yeah, obviously last week he did, and he's been doing a lot better. And it's all about that eye test. It's not like he's not playing well. He's just maybe not been getting the holes he's been deserving until he did last week, didn't he? Which was great to see. My fantasy draft team couldn't have been different to my normal fantasy team.
You had a good week in draft. Yeah,
I got like 60 points. It was great. But yeah, I think Brentford and Brighton, you need a couple of each at least.
The thing is though, with Brentford midfield, who do you pick?
Yeah, I was going to say it. So it's double defense in it, or
double attack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with.
I know exactly. It's suicidal.
I can't disagree with what Alex says about the just having the 2 Brentford in there, if I'm honest. But I wanted Henry, and I don't think that's particularly crazy. But midfield wise for Brentford, I agree. There's nothing too much really.
Even though I'm going to transfer a Brentford player in if I don't do a wild card. And strangely enough, I was going towards Wisa, but he didn't look really that entertaining.
Yeah, why? No, it's just a no from me. I just can't.
So
I
thought,
yeah,
I might just have Jensen. He's in good form. Scored, assist. So
have you got any Brentford defenders at the moment?
No.
So I mean, he could put one of them in. Yeah. I don't know. Do I think Henry's going to outscore Jensen? Probably. I think Raya's going to outscore Jensen. Yeah. That's my thought, bro. I think it's going to be like Tony, Raya, and a defender are going to be the ones probably that still got the points, even though I'm not happy about double Brentford defense. It's just.
They won't get the points though, because I've got double Brentford defence. So just don't do it.
They'll concede to the two worst teams in the league.
Yeah, it'd be like a pointless last-minute goal to cost me another point.
Do you think Ferguson is viable, Baz, as a pick for Brighton? Just because I think that's been a question that's been asked a lot about for value. Because
it's a rotation risk in it, but it's a cheap striker. That's going to be in and out of the squad. Welbeck came on and scored. So is he going to drop him like we were saying about Martinelli? He came on and scored. So is Welbeck going to start?
Yeah, maybe.
The problem is with Welbeck injuries. So Ferguson's probably going to play one of them games, and Welbeck will play the other.
But Ferguson's played 8 out of 9 matches, but 4 of them have been as substitutes. So, my hub's crashed again. But so that's where I'm kind of at with it. I think I'd stay away from it personally. That's where I'm at. But yeah, that covers off that question though. And then I really want to just briefly touch on game week 28 and free hits, because it just does make a difference as to why you pick the players that you pick. Sort of now, if you do wildcard, or the transfers that you transfer in. So you went for Martinez. Obviously, you've got Raya in there, Chilwell, Trippier, Zinchenko, Cash. Your back four that you would have in your wildcard anyway: Saka, Martinelli, Watkins, Tony, and Kane. You've got Jensen on there as Adama, Jensen, and Porro, but whatever to those guys, they'd be sat on your bench anyway. The only real players that you've got different in those is sort of like Sterling compared to Rashford and or Kulusevski. I mean, that could easily be Kulu, I assume.
By the way, I love Baz that you brought Kulusevski in for your wild card, but sacked him off for the free hit.
But yeah, I didn't fancy Southampton away for some strange reason. I went for Porro.
I love that you went for Porro, though. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's going to be on bench anyway. He's not going to start in front of them.
Yes.
So.
But still, it's what I think the point I'm making is, if you wildcard this week, you do it to a team. You don't need to free hit next week. Whereas if you want to just run with it this week, fine. But look at the free hit next week, because actually I think Sterling, right? Don't talk about Sterling from earlier this year. You know, captain him, decides not to score any points anymore. I killed Sterling as an asset for FPL this year, single-handedly. But the rest of your team is pretty optimal. Like if you wildcard to do it, but I think a lot of people at the moment will, if you're sitting there with Ødegaard and Trossard, Haaland, and you haven't got Tony or Kane, like, yeah, I think there's going to be some people picking. If you haven't got a team that's quite close to this in front of you on the screen, then you're going to struggle in game week 28, because I think there's quite an optimal template team that are going to do quite well. So anyway, that was the thought process there. But thanks, Baz. Thanks for sending those in.
It's all right. I had to put Adam Traore in for Scott.
You're only doing that to troll the guy.
I'm loving it. I'm loving life. It's been a great season.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, Scott.
I was going to say, it's not even like my real football team could give me any like solace. Just pain everywhere.
Well, they won, didn't they, Scott?
We did. We won last night. Get in.
I love that.
And you're off bottom as well, aren't you?
I've been off bottom of ages, mate. It's basically the team at bottom have given up. So,
thought Scunthorpe did as well, but hey, let's move on.
Wanted to just quickly touch on other teams to consider and other options. We're not going to go into any detail on this because we've done this quite a bit. But Villa, for an example, you could go with a defender. You could go with maybe Wendia, obviously Watkins as an option if you're looking at bringing in players who are going to double in 29 and play this week and next. I wouldn't really. I mean, Bournemouth have got a good double game week, but I won't obviously be looking at those guys. Brentford, Brighton, we've discussed. Chelsea, we've had a bit of a conversation about already. In terms of the double game weeks here as well, Leeds assets I probably wouldn't touch either. Leicester, we've got a good blend. Hopefully Maddison, potentially someone like Kelechi if he could hit a barn door one week, but you can't trust their defence unless you've got Ward as the keeper. Liverpool we'll come to in a second because I do want to get you guys' take on the 7-0. Newcastle, I think when we're doing any justice, I think I'd be such a biased Man United fan and let everyone talk about that on a podcast about football, wouldn't I? Honestly. Newcastle, definitely options again, but mostly defensively. I don't, at the moment we're sort of up in the air about who to go for attacking wise. And then West Ham, obviously blank in 28, but they're showing some signs, West Ham, but we'll see. They get battered and then they do all right. They're just really quite inconsistent. So Man United got beat 7-0 by Liverpool on Sunday. Scott, you watched the game, I assume?
Yeah, I watched the game, yeah.
Liverpool, are they back? Do we consider their options? Was it a freak? Was it not? Was it what do you think? What's your take on from a fantasy perspective and a football perspective?
Yeah, from a fantasy perspective, I think we've been saying on this, but we've been saying for a couple of weeks now that Liverpool are getting there. Certainly think they were getting back to where they were. Obviously they had the game against Real Madrid, but that's Real Madrid. They've certainly been looking a bit more like it. They seem to be ticking a bit more. So I think Salah is potentially one to keep an eye on. He was a whiff of a crossbar away. Was it last game week when I captained him? I think it was. Yeah. And then, again, by the way, people that captained them then forgot to do a team. Tom, you won't even listen to this, but yeah, nice life. Nice,
I gave him a shout out earlier, don't worry.
Yeah, nice returns, but it's certainly one to sort of keep an eye on, especially if if you've got that money in the midfield, if you maybe had a Kevin De Bruyne before, he's potentially not looking that great at the minute. It's someone to keep an eye on. I think that front three is looking more and more cemented now from a fantasy football perspective, especially with both of them, Gakpo and Nunez, both scoring twice. It seems like that new front three. I think it's crazy in it. A couple of weeks ago, we're saying rotation risks. Now they look nailed on. That they're going to start. You can't drop any of them players. I wouldn't have thought that played that Liverpool game. So they're looking more and more nailed on. Obviously, if they have a couple of bad games, you've got Jota and you've got Diaz coming back. So they will then become a bit risky. But I think if you wanted to go for one of them as an option now, it's pretty confident they're not going to get dropped. So yeah, I think they're slowly getting back there. I think as a football game, it was a weird game to watch because United looked really good first half. They got that. The key turning point was them probably getting that goal just before half time. Took them into the break. Klopp's fired them up. They've come out as a Liverpool team that we know, all guns blazing. United needed to just shut them out for the first 10 of each half for me, and it'd have been all right. It was a weird game. I think pretty much every shot went in. Some of the shots were, quick reactions, kind of like weird goals. So it was a freaky game. And United's, the heads just went, and it was a really embarrassing game for Man U. But like Gary Neville says, I rarely disagree with him, and I don't on this occasion. They can't let it affect them. I think they've got a manager that won't let it affect them, and I think they will bounce back. And I think it's going to be a really good learning curve for some of those players.
Any thoughts on it from your perspective, Baz?
I think Ten Hag made a mistake by starting Anthony, to be honest.
Okay.
I think with him going forward, yeah, it's great, but defensively, that's where Liverpool exploited for the first goal. Robson came in and then Gakpo finished because he wasn't tracking back. He was just in no man's land all the time. Mm-hmm. I think Micah Richards touched up on it on Match at Day. But yeah, I think that was probably the weird choice from me. But like I said earlier, I think it was just one of them. It was just a stretch too far for Man U's fixtures, and obviously away at Anfield, and Liverpool's pumped up for the game, and Man United are a bit leggy from obviously previous games, and I think it was just a bit too step far. And I think agree with Scott. I think the manager's going to say, right, forget about it. It's just a one-off. Right, let's get back onto it again. And I think they will. So
I think,
and they've got Southampton at home. So apart from that, so I think that's a nice game to go back into.
I think there's only one reason that Anthony played is because I'm guessing Ten Hag trusts him in big games when they've been together at Ajax. Mm-hmm. He didn't seem like the kind of player that I would be potentially starting in that game, like you say, away to Liverpool. As tough as it gets, much tougher than away at Man City with the crowd when they get going at Liverpool. So it is obviously, Anthony's, no doubt performed, and he's been looking all right anyway. So he's a player that Ten Hag clearly trusts. But I agree, Baz. I wouldn't have started him in that game either.
Yeah, you agreed with me.
Hey, we've got a one. And yeah, let's be honest. I watched the highlights. I saw some of the clips of the game, and I listened to the fallout after, and I don't disagree with pretty much anything any of the pundits said, to be honest. And then you look at someone like Bruno sort of throwing his arms up in the air and fake an injury and calls himself the captain of United. And look, I've got to say it myself, because I think everyone, if I don't say it, will be like, "Oh, you think he's all right?" No, I think he's an embarrassing disgrace, to be honest, the way he handled himself. But if you do it again, you should never captain the club again. But we all make a mistake in a big game and a big moment, and this, that, and the other. It's whatever life. But embarrassing. So let's just see how we move on. I think that's the key to it. If we lose to Betis and then we get beat by Southampton, then we've got to question mentalities, haven't we? Yes. Even more. Baz, I'm conscious of time, so I've only got about 5 or 6 minutes left here. So run through your team that you think will smash it this week.
But they never have, but yeah. Apart from Cash did all right.
You put
Cashed
Visser
in
in,
there,
didn't you? You got
Yeah, no, I
Visser
mean,
in.
but for last week, cashed in all right. So got Ray in goal, Estupian, Shaw, Trippier, Porro, because I thought he had a nice free kicking it crossbar, and I thought attacking returns, why not? Let's give him a go. And he's only 0.2% owned for a bit of a differential. Wisa, McAllister, Matoma, Rashford, Tony, Kane, and Darwin.
Oh, he's gone for Darwin. I like that. As boring as it is, your differential for the week. Are you going for a Brentford or Brighton player?
Yeah, I'm always going for a double game week player.
Yeah. It's got to be done, really. I know. Let's be honest.
I'll have the last pick. You guys can pick. I've got a few options.
Well, we've talked about McAllister and obviously Mbuemo and their players who can deliver. Rico Henry's up there as well. Scott's got to go for Veltman. I almost feel like that's kind of got to be given after his performance for his team, his draft team. He's right because I didn't want to go for the obvious McAllister because McAllister only 4.3%. It's just so obvious. I didn't want to do that. I want to go something different. So I think Lewis Dunk at 5% owned this week is going to deliver an attacking return and at least a clean sheet. So Dunk, I'm going for Dunky. Scott?
See if it's a slam dunk, mate.
Oi!
Callum will love that.
He will, won't he?
Yeah. I can't not go for Veltman. It's quite funny because I sent that text to you guys tongue in cheek asking how Veltman was doing because I thought he'd been subbed off, not subbed on.
Oh, it's funny. I thought you were bragging.
Yeah, I was like, how's Veltman doing? Thinking he's been subbed off and thinking, what's my luck? Bringing him in draft. And he obviously gets subbed on, gets a clean sheet, gets a goal. Happy days.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Are you going for Veltman again?
Yes.
Why not? Baz, who are you going for then?
I was going to go for McAllister, but like you said, it's the obvious pick. So here you go then. Listen to this one. Alcaraz, Southampton.
Oh,
He's injured, isn't he?
See,
he went off injured last game.
He's got 75% chance of starting.
Yeah.
0% owned.
Can I just say something really quickly? I love watching football with my dad because he's that old school. He just hates all the theatrics, and he's like because he got injured celebrating the goal, didn't he?
Yeah.
And you're like these bloody footballers should be bloody sliding about doing that.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Honestly, someone the other day got like Mum was saying someone the other day got like a really bad head injury, and he was like, "Get bloody up soft." And then the guy went off with concussion or something.
Concussion sub.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks. We've got those. That's good. Differentials. Do you have your early kickoff stats, Scott?
Well, I thought I'd just do last six.
Okay.
Recent run. So as much as that looks like a sexy game, doesn't it? Liverpool away at Bournemouth. I mean, any game against Bournemouth looks really like I don't know, tempting, doesn't it? But 2-0 to City was the last early kickoff, and then 4-2 in that game where I didn't watch to Arsenal, which would have been 3-2 if it weren't for that last minute Martinelli goal. Dead to me. And then 1-1, 1-0, 0-0, 2-1. The stats are still backing up that the early kickoff is not good at all. So I would still be worried about that. The only two teams that have scored 2 or more goals are Man United, Man City, and Arsenal in the last 6 games.
Okay, right, nice.
Against a Bournemouth team that will be fighting for their lives, I think that's a really tough game.
I think just to touch on a couple of questions. So Callum will cover who will win the league and why. We'll do it later. We'll do it another week. So we're going to run out of time here. We've talked about some wildcard differentials. This Baz has given you a few ideas. And if you're absolutely lost, he sent me a message. I'm absolutely lost. Just tell me what to do. After your game week, Callum. Callum, after your game week last week, Callum, to be fair, at least you didn't have as bad as DC. But I would probably just wildcard, mate, and crack on with your life. Captains and fixtures, a deadline is at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Captain, boys, double game week player, or are we thinking someone like Kane against Forest? Or are we thinking does it just have to be Tony? Everton.
Got to gamble on Tony for me.
Ooh. Baz?
Tony?
Yeah, it's just got to be Tony, isn't it? And I don't mind the Brighton. There's loads of differential captains. I really don't mind going for a Brighton player if someone wants to do that. With Palace, they're at home and obviously Leeds away. I don't mind someone going for Kane as well. Forest at home.
Rashford.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rashford
Rashford
at
as well.
Southampton at home.
Yeah.
We should have a really wide range of captains this week, but yeah,
We won't.
but we won't. No, so we'll have it'll all be Tony because he's got a double game.
Can you have Trippier at Newcastle?
Oh God, he could even because they'll probably keep a clean sheet there anyway. But right, boys, sorry, I've run out of time. So thank you ever so much for joining us this week, boys. You have been great. Really enjoyed it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Like the videos, guys. Log into your YouTubes and like the videos. God damn it. Because we're getting plenty of views, but not many likes. So either you're all watching us and you hate us, or or you just haven't bothered logging in and like the video. So come on. And then follow us on our social media platforms, Audible Pod, Audible P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Lads, all the best. Green hours all round. See you soon.